So I'll finish with the words of Elaine Locke. This is an excerpt from Harlem in March 1925. Harlem is neither slum, ghetto, resort, or colony. Though it is in part all of them, it is or promises at least to be a race capital. Negro life is not only founding new centers, but finding a new soul. The tide of Negro migration northward and cityward is not to be fully explained as a blind flood started by the demands of war industry coupled with the shutting off of foreign migration, or by the pressure of poor crops coupled with increased social terrorism in certain sections of the South and Southwest. Neither labor demand, the boll weevil, nor the Ku Klux Klan is a basic factor, however contributory any or all of them may have been. The wash and rush of this human tide on the beach line of the northern city centers is to be explained primarily in terms of a new vision of opportunity, of social and economic freedom, of a spirit to seize, even in the face of an extortionate and heavy toll, a chance for the improvement of conditions. With each successive wave of it, the movement of the Negro migrant becomes more and more like that of the European waves at their crests, a mass movement towards the larger and the more democratic chance, in the Negro's case, a deliberate flight not only from countryside to city, but from medieval America to modern. And what we see in the anthologies that they discuss kind of the Harlem Renaissance as a time in which we look at what it means to be Black in modernity. So the development of new perspectives and an understanding of what it means to exist as a Black American. And the artists and the writers and the musicians and the thinkers were the individuals that laid the foundations for the representation of Black people in our modern world. So they have the complexity, the self-awareness, the self-knowledge that the condition of African Americans is changing rapidly. You're going from, or went from, slave to now freed individual to now worker, laborer to ultimately to one day citizen. And so there's this idea that as the 20th century unfolds, in the Harlem Renaissance, we can see an example of artists and thinkers and leaders helping Black Americans to come together and make sense of their experiences. That's why we call it a Renaissance, okay? So all of these different types of people, of Black Americans, are gathering together, and they're creating their sense of community. They're creating their sense of identity. And we have these wonderful authors and writers who are talking about it. Du Bois is known for talking about the talented 10th, that group of Black Americans who are going to ultimately pull up or uphold the Black race and continue to be a beacon for the future generations of Black Americans. And so the beauty, I think, of the Harlem Renaissance, when we look at it as a literary movement and as we read the writings of the authors and the poets and the intellectuals, we get to see a sense of vision of what that might mean for them, have meant for them at that moment, and then ultimately what it may mean for Black Americans in the future. So I hope as you read literature, you get a sense that, wow, this is a really critical time, and these writers are authoring works and expressing what this time means, not just from an individualistic sense, but also from a communal sense. So remember what we talked about with literature being a very much a communal practice, a coming together. And so what we'll see through the writing and the shared themes that are revealed throughout many of the works is that it's a communal experience that's being expressed through these different forms of literature. So I hope you enjoy the Harlem Renaissance as we go through it this week.